the Nigeria Economic Summit Group, NESG, is telling the federal government to measure the economic growth through productivity in the economy rather than relying on macroeconomic data like inflation and, of course, the monetary policy rate as well. That is coming from the NESG. What does it mean for the government? Which direction do you think government should actually take with regards to this very big, useful advice, I would say, coming from NESG? Let's put some perspective into this. I'm being joined virtually from Abuja here by an economic analyst, Mr. Wilson Agada. Good morning, Wilson.
Good morning, Yusuf. It's been a long time.
Daily. Yes, glad to have you on Business Daily. Let's get your reaction to this. Now I call it a very useful advice from NESG talking about Nigeria Economic Summit Group. What's your reaction to that advice?
No, I think sincerely that it's a good advice. Because like some of us have said before, it's not about the theory. It's not about the economics textbook. Governance is about the real life of people, human beings like you and I. The ability of people like you and I to be able to wake up in the morning, go to our place of work, make some money, to be able to feed our family, pay our bills, live a life that is at least reasonable and all of that. That is what governance is all about, and not the figure we see on papers. So when he said, when the organization advises the government to measure growth and development by those indices that truly affect the people, I agree with them. And some of us have advocated for this a bit, not time, that it is very important that the people feel the government. The people feel the impact of government policies in the positive manner. So it's, for me, a good message. And I wish that the government takes not just under advisement, also act on it, excuse me.
Indeed, it's a good advice. It's wanting to give an advice, another thing for government to heed that advice. Do you think government will listen to this advice?
Well, that I can't expressly say. It's for us to observe and see if they make that direction. However, I would to also look at the practical feasibility of putting this advice to work. Now, this takes us back to the structure of the kind of federating units that we are operating. Like I mentioned several times, that federal government does not necessarily have any instrument by which it can whip the governors. And if you look at the structure of our governance structure, you will see that the federal government makes policy that is at the strategic level. The state government try to put some more specificity to this, right? Which is like when you are talking about corporate hierarchy now, it's like the business level decision making. And then you have the local government, which are the tactics of this governance. But if you look at how our government is operated today, this link does not exist. So you can have federal government championing a policy, but the state governors are not buying into it, and the local governments are non-existent. Now, how do you translate this strategic policy? Because the federal is put there, is set up for strategic planning. So they make this decision. The state and the local government who are supposed to do this are not properly functioning. And our constitution has not given anything for anybody to. It leaves the whole load on the head of the political party that produced the president, the governors, and the local government to coordinate these activities. Unfortunately, the leadership of the party is also put on the head of the president. So at the end of the day, there is nobody who actually can coordinate these activities. We are left at the mercy of the mindset and the energy of the people at the second and third tiers. And this is why, to a large extent, we need a leadership that is aware and conscious of this fragmentation in the flow of our governance at different tiers, and to be able to lobby, since he does not have material to whip people into line. The president will be able to lobby these second and third tiers of governance to buy into their policies, and to also prime our institution to ensure that these policies thrive irrespective of who becomes the next president and who becomes the next governor. So, to a large extent, it sounds nice on paper to say, okay, do this. Let us measure economic growth and development by the indices that truly touches the people. Let us adjust our policy. But beyond making the policy, how do we then implement it to the letter and set up mechanism to measure its impact without the cooperation of these other two tiers of government? This is the area I feel that every president needs to do more. And that, of course, we need to begin to push for a way to create this link between these three tiers of the government.
Indeed, a lot of we need to have a synergy between the three tiers of government. It does appear that three of them are working, at cross purposes there. Let's look at the NESG reports. They also say something about the rebasing economy. According to them, they say the rebasing of Nigeria GDP is more than a recalibration of economic statistics. It is a diagnostic scan revealing deep structural imbalances and fiscal vulnerabilities. Those are very big words, Mr. Wilson.
Yes. Now, what they are trying to talk about is that when you hear these figures that we mentioned as indicators of our economic well-being, they are actually based on some set of data, that we calculate and say, okay, for instance, you're taking data for inflation. We are looking at the marginal increase in the prices of goods compared to the prices of those same goods at a particular point in time. So like when you heard that the inflation was rebased recently, it means they took the period by which we base all our calculation closer to where we are now. Okay. Now, if you go to something like GDP also, you see this is the total productivity going on in the country. Now, this total productivity also is got from data that are available in the official sources. Most of our informal activities are not covered because there are people who are doing businesses who are not captured in any form of data, and they don't even have bank accounts and all of that. Then when we talk about unemployment rate, most times we don't even capture the employment in the informal sector, which is something this government did argue about, and I think that was the reason we had an adjustment in the unemployment rate, and it came down to 4% and all of that, because we do have people who are doing daily job, and of course they earn up to 15,000, 20,000 from their site every day, and at the end of the month, if they have gone to site 20 days, that's more than 250,000 naira salary per month. But some of these are not stable, they are not documented, they are not paying for pension contribution and all of those things, no form of taxes. So basically, if we are looking at, okay, can we widen this net? Can we have a more comprehensive way of estimating our economy? Of course, it will have a greater implication, and of course, it will show us where our more vulnerabilities are, and where more strengths are. So, of course, that's what I think they were talking about.
Indeed. Mr. Wilson, the NESG also say that it does appear that the government is unaware of the fact that expanding the GDP statistical size of the economy, and of course the real economy where jobs and productivity is needed, I mean, does not have a proper relationship. Are we going to look at the statistics at the expense of the real economic growth? We've been talking about this.
You know, my earlier statement alluded to that we need to ensure that statistics are linked to the feelings on the street. By feelings, I don't mean emotion. I mean the capability of people to earn and also make a living. What we say today, there is hunger in the land, people are suffering and all of that. Our ability to relate what we are having on paper, what we are publishing as this figure, with how the people feel the impact of our governance on the street should be paramount. Because no matter how good the figure is, if the people are not feeling okay, then you have not done anything, because governance is not for figure. Is for the people to feel okay. The very essence of governance is people in a community or in a certain geographical area coming together and say, let's put our resources together, both human, financial, material, time, space, and otherwise, and make life better and easier for all of us. But where that doesn't happen, then the essence of governance has failed, irrespective of how good and prime the numbers look on paper. So it's important for us to ensure that there's a link between the figure and what is on the street. Now, why is there a disconnect between the data and what is on the street? Because maybe issue of data integrity, the people who are putting this data together are not doing what they should do, and then of course the data is not representing the true picture of what is in the public space, or somebody is deliberately making the data look better than it is, or we are using the wrong indices to measure what is really happening on the street. So it is important for us to make the data and the street agree. We know that in econometrics, there's what we call lag. When you implement a policy and it takes some time before the effect begins to show in the area to which it is targeted. Sometimes, depending on the nature of the policy and the level of implementation, it can take up to a year or 2 years or 5 years or 10 years, depending on whatever. But even though there is a lag, we should more short-term effect at certain level, so that we can know that in the long run it will begin to show. Okay, so if we don't try to deliberately make effort to cause the data to agree with the street, we'll continue to deceive ourselves that we are doing well in governance, while the people on the street are continuously angry with us.
Indeed, that's a very elaborate explanation. I would say the economic data and of course the street must agree for us to have a better statistics. And that is a very good one there, Mr. Wilson. The economic think tank, talking about the NESG now, they also call for the state of emergency to be declared in industrial sector, while also urging the federal government to address energy reliability, logistic bottlenecks, and input costs, deploy a blended finance, targeted infrastructure tax investment incentives, and of course resuscitate manufacturing. And of course they also call for investment in oil and gas sector. A whole lot, I mean, gamut of issues there that government need to address, Mr. Wilson.
You see, that's the right call. I agree with them 100%. And I have mentioned this severally, that what we are currently doing, mostly in my opinion, is just like, let's keep regardless of the direction. We need to get to a point where we have a leadership craft a lesser view kind of vision. A vision that is so focused that people can easily buy into it. Then we recalibrate all the sectors of our economy to achieve that. For instance, when we went to float the naira, why are we floating our naira when we are yet to industrialize? How are we going to get the big equipment to come in? Now, one of the biggest issue we have is the lack of all these things that have been recommended. We have graduates, thousands of them coming into the labor market every year, and they don't have jobs because we have not designed the economy to purposively create jobs. By jobs, I don't mean the type that federal government will create duplicating agencies just to get more people there. I mean jobs where somebody is contributing to the economy and earning from it. Agriculture is a low-hanging fruit. The former administration, the administration of late former President Muhammadu Buhari talked about producing what we consume and consuming what we produce, which led to the closure of the border at the time. They focused on agriculture, they chose rice, and they pushed until at least they were able to show us that time that they have surpassed our local need of rice. The next step was supposed to make it cheaper by going into mechanization, fixing land issue system and land tenure system issue and all of that. Now we still have we have gone back on all of that. We have started importing rice. Production has gone down because of insecurity and all of that. But imagine that the government is deliberately investing in agriculture. Imagine agricultural hubs where we have say 10,000, 20,000 hectares of land producing a particular type of crop across the 36 states of the country. Do you know how many millions of people that will employ? And then when we are talking insecurity, when people are employed, they don't have time. They are not available for criminals to recruit them to come and wreak havoc. But because we have all of these people available with brains, with energy, they put it into the wrong thing. Scamming, fraudsters, banditry, all of these things have people for them. Look at our oil sector. Look at our oil sector. We have not been able to come up with comprehensive framework that will allow us to harness what God has blessed us with naturally. Look at all the other sectors. So we need to sit down. We need to be able to produce what we consume and consume what we produce. That is the only way we can develop. That is the only way we can create job here. That is the only way we can compete in the international environment. China didn't get where they are today by doing lackluster approach like we are doing today. China were very purposeful. They were very purposive in everything they did. And before you know it, they are the largest economy in the world. We have numbers, we have resources, we have everything that is needed. We need to begin to think in this direction. Purposive leadership. Leadership with vision that transcends one administration to the other, that cuts across political party, irrespective of which party you believe in. We should have that same vision to make Nigeria great.
Indeed, we should have that vision to make Nigeria great. Before we go on the program, the NESG is also calling on government as well to deepen financial intermediation to expand credit access and mobilize capital market funding for the real economy. Do you think we are taking advantage of the huge opportunity available in our capital market to develop the economy?
Thankfully enough, I work in the MSME sector as a consultant. And so I meet this kind of people every day. I talk to a lot of them every day. And I can tell you that our financial sector have not been able to truly incorporate this sector. Have not been able to truly acknowledge and make provision for the peculiarities of this sector. And as such, access to finance is quite difficult for businesses in this category.
All right.
So we still have a lot to do in that aspect. I also understand some of the issues there because one, you have people who have businesses without proper business plans. They have businesses without proper structure. Some of them are barely able to record their financial activities and all of that. Government has been throwing money at trying to train them and all of that. That hasn't worked very well because I believe there's also a structural and framework issue there. Now, you talk about the issue of bad debt from that segment.
A lot.
They are a highly volatile and risky segment. So we need to also find a way to ensure that people who take loan are thoughtful and then they can pay back. The credit bureau will help in a long way if the government actually consolidates on that.
Indeed.
There are a few other
always
things that can be done, and I think that these people have offered a very comprehensive advice. I read the report. I haven't finished reading it, but I think it's comprehensive and quite instructive.
All right, indeed, a very comprehensive one. If followed through, may indeed transform the economy. I must thank you, Agada Wilson. Thank you so much for your time and, of course, your contributions on Business Daily today.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, I appreciate. With that, is a wrap on the show today. We'll be back again tomorrow. I am Yusuf Akogu.